Make sure to subscribe to the Volume YouTube channel so you can catch all of our shows and get what everybody wants, more of me. Hi, everybody, and welcome in. The Rams win the Super Bowl on a game in which I thought both defensive lines really dictated style of play. I thought the Rams were the best team in the first quarter and most of the last quarter. I thought the Bengals were the much better team, especially on offense in the second and third quarters. The Rams had a really rough second half for most of it offensively. And what I wondered watching it was they were on a third-string tight end. They had a rookie from Notre Dame at wide receiver, a fourth-string wide receiver in the game. They could not run the ball. And I wondered if McVay was protecting Stafford to some degree because he didn't want him to just drop play after play after play. He wanted to establish some commitment to the run. But, you know, when I look at the Rams this year, I think about resilience. They lose Robert Woods. They lost Cam Akers. They lost some offensive linemen. Here in the Super Bowl, it's Tyler Higbee. It's OBJ. It was an incredibly resilient team, and they asked a lot of players who weren't playing to step up in key moments. A lot of credit to Cincinnati, their defensive line, and we knew it was good. It worked the Rams' offensive line, perhaps not in pass protection, but certainly in the run game. But I thought the game came down to, you know, a handful of moments. I thought the Tyler Boyd drop in the fourth quarter was a huge break for the Rams. And then on 4th and 1, on the subsequent drive, Cooper Kupp gets the ball, and he ends up being MVP. They really focused on Cooper Kupp. I mean, at that point, you know, when you miss a PAT early, everybody talks about the effect of the PAT. But the advantage for the Rams missing the PAT is that trailing by 4, they had to be more aggressive on their final drive. And so, you know, my takeaway is the Rams were going to go for it. The Rams were going to pass more. They got out of the run game, some short passing, some rolling out. The knock on McVay in his first Super Bowl is that he comes in with a game plan. He doesn't necessarily adapt to it. Now, some people could say, you know, Goff didn't have the encyclopedic knowledge or the years in the league like Stafford. There were limitations against the Patriots in that Super Bowl. But I thought you got to give McVay and the Rams credit on that final drive. They had time. This was not a under 2-minute drill situation for most of it. They could have run the ball. They didn't. They moved the pocket several times. They had key players in motion. They ran a couple of plays they hadn't earlier. They focused in on Cooper Kupp. They evolved and adapted on that final drive. And, you know, in their previous 6 or 7 drives, they didn't do anything. So there was a sense of urgency. They bailed on the run game. They moved Stafford around in the pocket, rolling him out. And they went all in on Cooper Kupp. So that was the adapt. That was, you know, moving off what your modus operandi had been for the previous 6 or 7 drives. So I think McVay deserves credit for that. Listen, these are two different teams. When I think about the Bengals, I think about a young team, best years ahead of it, a handful of stars, very youthful, only one player with Super Bowl experience, even a young coach. When I think of the Rams, I think of more stars, 10 players with Super Bowl experience, a head coach with Super Bowl experience. The head coach is the mentor to the younger Zach Taylor. I felt like the Rams were the better team. And for most of this game, even when they trailed, I kind of felt like get Stafford the ball, get it to him late, give him 2.5 minutes, because Stafford led the NFL in fourth quarter passer rating and second half passer rating the entire season. So the one thing you really have to acknowledge here, and you can get into the petty calls late, but holding's holding. In those situations, referees are going to call it if your hands are on the body. They just are. A boxing official, a boxing ref in the ring is going to call it differently at the last couple of rounds in the last 45 seconds. Okay, that's the reality. You get to these NBA finals games, conference finals games in the NFL and NBA, refs swallow the whistle. Finals games, NBA, Super Bowl, refs swallow the whistle. But when you get down to a minute and a half left, they're going to call ticky-tack stuff. This is the season. These are the moments. It's situational officiating. Seen it my entire life. So I didn't have a problem. I thought the refs had a big miss on the T. Higgins touchdown where he grabbed the face mask of Jalen Ramsey, but it happens. I'm not going to complain about it. It happens. It was a huge game-altering play. And I thought the holding calls in the end, some could say ticky-tack, they're situational, you're going to call those. But I think when I look at the Rams, I look at them differently than I do Cincinnati. First of all, McVay is not going to retire. It's absolute nonsense. He's trying to get a contract extension. His last contract negotiation was rough, and he didn't get what he wanted. Stan Kroenke, the owner, is a tough negotiator. By the way, Les Snead, the GM of the Rams, is paid significantly less than somebody with his resume. McVay is paid significantly less than somebody with his resume. Aaron Donald is not going to retire. I'm not sure where everybody's getting these stories. I'll ask Aqib Talib about Aaron Donald, but I don't buy it. I just think Aaron Donald's too good. He's too passionate. He loves the game. He's hyper competitive. You can see when guys, you can hear when guys are done with the game. I don't think Aaron Donald's retiring. But I look at these two teams differently. I think the best days of the Bengals are obviously ahead. I think the division now, we don't know what Cleveland's going to do eventually at quarterback or the Steelers. I think Cincinnati could dominate their division for years. You know, the Rams are in a tougher division. My guess is if Pete Carroll doesn't win this year, Russell Wilson will get an offensive coach in Seattle. Kyler Murray, the Niners' Kyle Shanahan has had McVay's number for most of it. I think it'll be a tougher ask to get the Rams back into the Super Bowl because it's hard. LA, people get gassed up. They get endorsements. I think they're in a tougher division. I think Shanahan is arguably the first or second best young coach in football, and McVay's first or second. So, you know, if you'd have put Andy Reid in Bill Belichick's division, you know, for a decade, Bill Belichick's not winning all those divisions, not getting home field, not getting a bye, and some years not getting out of it. So it's not that the Rams won't be really good, but that division, I think, is only getting better. Trey Lance has a chance to be an upgrade over Jimmy G. Kyler Murray, despite what you're reading this weekend, he's coming back to Arizona. Russell Wilson will eventually, if he stays, get an offensive coach. And I'm not saying the tarmac doesn't have some length to it, but I could see Cincinnati dominating their division for most of the next 10 years with Joe Burrow and Zach Taylor. And those receivers, absolutely. You know what's funny about these Super Bowls? If the Rams didn't drive for the winning touchdown, the story would have been McVay's insistence on running the football in the second half, right? Like narratives change based on the outcome, but the winners write the final chapter. And I kept thinking in the second half, the story's going to be McVay and his sort of stubborn rigidity, running the ball on 2nd and 3, turning it into 3rd and 6 and 3rd and 7 over and over and over again. But, you know, Stafford changes all that. That's why they upgraded. And I also think what you see with Stafford, and I hope this is not undersold, 3rd string tight end, a 4th string wide receiver in, no Higbee in the Super Bowl, OBJ out at halftime. Those are significant losses. They couldn't even use their backup tight end. He had a shoulder injury. You're talking about these are timing routes, timing positions, and he's going to 3rd and 4th string guys. That is a big ask against a defense in Cincinnati. We all got to be honest here. That pass rush gave the Rams more trouble than I think certainly I predicted. You know, the story of the game going in was the Rams defensive line, and it was an issue. I mean, Aaron Donald in the second half was unblockable. But the Bengals, I thought, did just about as impressive a job, especially from the edges on Matt Stafford against the tackles against the Rams, the strength of their offensive line. So I think the best team won. I'm not going to get too much into the calls. Refs whiffed on one in the first half against the Bengals, and the holding stuff deep in the red zone, they're going to call that stuff. They're just going to call that in that situation. So that's kind of my big bow on the game I watched. I've got notes a mile long for tomorrow's show, But, my takeaway is these Super Bowls so many times in our life have been decided by a final drive. And once you get that final drive concluded with a touchdown and a win, that's the story.